Chapter 21, The Different Fields of Soul Spirit. As we've already mentioned, the souls were split into two groups. At least that was the intent. Any soul with over 10% Fey spirit was deemed a minor level soul by the first beings. This is due to the fact that their spirits were composed of more Fey than the original first beings wanted. That's why the human souls are on the third dimension and the Fey are on the lower levels. We'll discuss the dimensional levels later. Any soul with 20% or more Fey spirit was considered Fey. Things have changed already. Feymen souls and essence have their own field of energy right now. And Feymen can also go wherever they want, whenever they want. The percentage point breakdown for Feymen spirit is over 10% Fey or human spirit within a spirit. There is already a new freedom in the second dimension or other side. Great change has already begun. The vast majority of spirit that demanded continuance of the old abusive ways have been isolated or removed permanently. The old format of abuse will never be permitted again. What's missing is proper leadership. Let's talk about the different characteristics of the Fey and human spirits in general. The Fey are a little more down to earth, if you excuse the pun. They see things as they are without hidden meaning. It's one of their particular energy characteristics. In Fey, we've all had lives in different dimensions here. You might say, damn Jay, those overalls really make you look old and tired. You might immediately follow that up with the suggestion to fly to the lake and enjoy the sun. I would almost certainly look at you and say, sure, let's go. I wouldn't take much offense to your comment about my overalls and how you felt I looked in them. You were merely stating a comment on how they look to you. Had this happened in the human realm or third dimension, there might be some aggressive, painful resentment or other emotional issues rising. You might wonder why the other person said that, what was really behind it, etc. There is more complex undertaking of emotions here. That's not just a human thing, but it is also a physical thing to a smaller extent. In Fey, we have less need of physical things. We don't have regular physical bodies. We see each other in different body forms, but they're not physical as we know them appear. The Fey bodies were given to them a very long time ago and differ from one planet to another. The Fey souls talk to us and come to us in spirit form. They only make bodies on the rarest of occasions. They call me father. I really like that, and I've only seen them physically once. I see them easily as energy, and they're aware of that. They don't need to make a physical body to hang out with me. They're very strong in the telepathy department. It's also one of the advantages of being more spirit than physical. The human soul is a little different. It's usually a little more intense in its vibration, a little more aggressive. This isn't good for accomplishing things in the physical world, but it also leads to problems. This increases the tendency toward abuse of various kinds. This abuse can be soft, but it's usually problematic just the same. Soft abuse does not cause many problems, but when added onto the pile of hard abuse, it just can make the spirit within the body work even harder to survive. It has to increase the vibration within itself to continue. This causes extremely rapid growth of the spirit, but it comes with the big price tag of abuse frequencies. I'm not spending much time talking about the human souls, as you were already aware of a lot of it. The vast majority of you are characteristics available are human souls. There's more information about human soul characteristics available throughout this book and the others following it. There are two books in the creation series. Let's spend a little time in the Femen field of spirit. The Femen carry characteristics from both fields, but they sometimes don't settle into the human world too easily. It's a little confusing on a spiritual level. I said spiritual, not religious. Religions are a thought process given to you in order to put you into a box. A box can be closed with a lid. I've been there and done that. There are many wonderful religious people, but not wonderful religions. They all revolve around praise, worship, money, control, and worse. Some Femen fit in almost anywhere, and others can't. I've seen some live outside of a normal life, turn within themselves and become wonderful artists. Some just want no part in society at all. One friend of mine with Femen essence had a life here as a fairy in the colonial days. She's awesome. My friend visited a drunken writer, a poet of sorts, on the deck of a ship. She was curious about his physical condition. He was pretty sick. She could feel his heart and knew he was safe to approach. She had an incredible amount of compassion as well as passion for exploration. He was, of course, amazed at her being there. She was about 4 feet tall and very beautiful. She had insect wings. In that life, he later wrote a few poems about her, which he returned to Scotland and then returned home to England. These poems were then read by another and another until eventually reaching the author of Peter Pan. That's right, folks. My Femen friend Anna was the actual fairy that inspired Tinkerbell from Peter Pan. I also know the souls who were here in the Nordic physical bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus. These souls are together again in Georgia. Mr. Claus had health issues that should have kept him indoors, but he'd go into the forest and find different pieces of wood he needed to make gifts for the neighborhood kids, as they had no money to speak of. No one in the area did. Mr. and Mrs. Claus lived just outside the town. He had the same physical difficulties than that he has today, and his wife was the same then as she is now. They were a little intrigued when I told them about that. There are many stories that seem to have come from someone's imagination but are actually based on actual physical occurrences. Note that I use the word based. Santa had a lot of fae hanging around, but the townspeople were so moved by Mr. and Mrs. Claus that they started doing the same for each other as well as others. Little elves were not making toys, but many of the townspeople were. Most famine spirit can adapt to a large variety of conditions and handle more than their share of adversity. It's almost like they are a little stronger, maybe even a little more complete than human or fae, as they were never completely separated in the beginning. Either way, they are our family and an important part of our success as a whole as creation. Chapter 22. The 5 stages of soul evolution. 5 stages of evolution were set up for the souls. They've only been allowed to reach the first 3 stages. The stage of evolution, the more the soul has had to struggle and therefore grow in size and strength. Like most things, the beginning is the hardest. Like learning how to ride a bike or drive a car, it is difficult at first, and then it becomes as easy as breathing. Some people actually choose to stay at an earlier stage to increase their energetic size and power level through additional stress, but this was at a cost to their personal frequencies, because more of the abuse frequencies grew inside of them. Stage 1. The first stage occurred when you were released from the original beings. As each wave of soul spirit was released, it kept moving forward, fanning out until it separated into small malleable orbs of spirit. This was the initial stage of the soul. This was how all soul spirit started. It was a very special time and the origin of almost all of you. This is where you separated into two parts, male and female. This is about your only soulmate. It is literally the other part of you. Together you make up that singular orb of spirit that became two, just as the original first being did in the beginning. When your spirit halves are in close proximity to each other, you have a feeling of wholeness and completion that can't fully or accurately be described. It has to be felt to be understood. As your spirit had more lives, your internal structure changed. After enough lives were accumulated and sufficient power level achieved, your spirit form changed. Stage 2. As you leave that last life in your initial orb form, your spirit field opens up into a larger and slightly thinner field with 3 different focal points within it. By thinner, I mean that the actual density of your energy is slightly diminished, but the field size has now grown close to 100 times. You're able to access more knowledge, your power level increases rapidly as you continue having lives and settle into your new form. And your speed of everything increases. You can travel faster, consume knowledge faster, etc. The basic composition of your new field is your solar plexus energy. The 3 focal points inside are thought, heart, and emotion. This happens by having lives. However, you do not need to have lives of abuse. It will happen anyway. While in body, you acquire new understandings. You learn things that are accessed as knowledge. Shortly thereafter, this knowledge is consumed, processed in your heart and mind, and turned into understanding or wisdom. The hypothalamus gland in the brain is instrumental to this. Knowledge by itself is only data. It must be consumed and trusted to some degree before it becomes wisdom. It must be understood. If it can't be understood, it holds no value to you or anyone else for that matter. It is important to understand that we need to separate data from wisdom. Reading or seeing something means a little before we can understand it having any true value. In this stage, you'll find that you can learn more, access more data, and have stronger life themes while in body. This in turn helps you develop at a faster rate. Your growth is more rounded out, fuller, and more complete. It's easier to understand things at this stage. There are few first stage souls here now. When you see them, provided you're already awake, you'll notice how young they may seem, no matter their physical age. The reverse is also true when you see a person who, even though very young physically, is what you call an old soul. One thing worth mentioning here is that since so many of you are already in the second stage of soul evolution, you'll see many people as young or old souls while they're in their second stage of evolution with you. Remember that there were 5 waves or generations of souls released, with a lot of time in between them. Stage 3. In this stage of soul evolution, your energy makes a more dramatic change. Your social structure with others in your group makes a dramatic change as well. When I look at those of you in this level, and there are very few, your aura is totally different from everything else. It's quite beautiful, actually. It's more like a digital flow of all the colors flowing at one time. I often call it a rainbow aura. Your spirit's frequencies seem to run at the same time, but are actually flowing in sequence of continued bursts of all the different frequencies you have. Your auric display is an open representation of who you are as a spirit. This is your energetic makeup, so to speak. It's like wearing your name on your shirt at a convention, letting others know who you are at first glance. When it comes to your social structure, the change is both unique and important to souls. At this stage, you gather together and form a singular field of spirit energy. This is how the different fields of essence exist. They are huge fields of singular, similar spirits. It's a big step in your evolution. Once having attained this level, you are much stronger. It's almost like taking a piece of iron ore and turning it to steel. This is why I see those in this level as changing from analog to digital. I see the actual change, but have no proper words to describe it. It's difficult to put into words what you can see with your mind. It's also difficult to explain some of the things you feel. When I go into people's brains and evolve them, they usually have a difficult time describing what they're feeling. It's a new feeling. You also have much more compassion as well as honor in this stage. Your fortitude is much stronger. This enables you to do more while in body. The fact that your spirit is stronger also makes your body stronger than it would be without you in it. As you might have already guessed, this stage is only for souls 17% negative and cleaner. When you're 27% negative, you can be cleaned to 17% once out of body. After you have a few lives, you can eventually get there too. Please remember once again that the percentage of someone's negativity is never his or her fault. It's just the being from being part of the original first being who was 27.5% negative to start with. Also remember that when we're in these bodies, there is a certain amount of negativity that comes with them, as well as the abuse that comes from having that life. There's not a whole lot to say in this area right now. Less than 5% of human soul population is in the third stage of evolution. Remember also that the large majority of bodies here and elsewhere, our soul essence is here in a larger portion than most other places. Essence is here in larger portion than most other places due to the 2012 event issues, but it's still just a fraction of our population. Fourth and fifth stage of soul evolution. These stages will be mentioned and nothing more. That is a topic for a later time. In numerology, the 5 stands for movement. That's why your evolution was placed into 5 groups. The Adamic race came here as 5 couples also. There were 5 feet tall. They were 5 feet tall, had 5 fingers and toes, 5 physical senses, etc. There was also 5 ages of human evolution on this planet. We moved into the 6th age at the physical world here on this Earth December 21st, 2012, without a planetary holocaust, such as fire, ice, or flood. The numeral 6 represents intuition. It's about the awakening of everything. Simplicity exists all around you. It's part of the understanding process. Chapter 23. Water, the nectar of physical life. Water is an amazing thing. It is so full of life and powerful, yet it is so delicate. Over time, it can cut through the hardest rock, smooth out the edges, so to speak. So it's also full of more life than you'll probably ever know while in a body. It can also be the harbinger of death when abused and mistreated. If you can feel stone energy, you'll notice that after you polish raw stones in a tumbler, their energy has a softer feel to it. Many people say that the water takes their energy. This is not really true, but there is a catch to what I just said. When you tumble stones in water, it softens the energy's introduction into your aura. It rounds it off and softens its approach. If it can't just take the energy. However, there are little beings in the water that can hold energy from other things. They are relatively few in number, but very densely populated in water. They are water spirits, but also found in the air, in the moisture. The amount that these beings hold on to is much less than 1% of the difference in what you feel before and after the stone is tumbled. The difference before and after tumbling is so minimal anyway that less than 1% is hardly worth mentioning. It does exist though. They can hold the energy but not become it. It's almost like they're a carrier of it. Water is just another part of Gaia here. Gaia is part of our real family and owner of our physical bodies we live in, which are being harshly abused daily. This will soon come to an end. I know how it happens, but that's for another day, or I should say book 4 of the series. This planet will not be allowed to perish under the abusive treatment of what's on it. Gaia will be cleaned herself upon soon. She's been getting help from Source Spirit for a long time now. Gaia is family. And like all spirit family, she will be protected. Planets are different. They have different needs. Eventually, we will all understand. It's in our caring to do so that we supersede our original formatting as spirit. This is called evolution. Chapter 24. Those who live outside of our creation, dimensional dudes, Energians. Earlier, during the collision of 5 energetic masses, which occurred before the heavy matter became a part of it, I mentioned that a few smaller pieces of the huge evolving field were separated from it by the sheer force of the event. It's almost like there was a pot of water boiling over. This energy became sentient separately from our creation. This chapter is about the beings that came from it and are part of it. Now, these are very unique beings. I'm only personally aware of one in a body. There are a few more, but there are not many at all. These beings are a product of the initial process that made the original first being. As the original first being was forming, through happenstance, another process was occurring. Other energy forms that separated from the main singularity were flying around and becoming alive themselves. I call these beings the dimensional dudes. In the northeastern United States, the word dude refers to both male and females. I watched the dimensional dudes move effortlessly through dimensions, and I thought that was pretty neat. They're actually a form of sentient electricity with the addition of 4 energies also as well. As I have mentioned earlier, the 5 energies that amassed together were the complete recipe for sentience. These energy forms were becoming sentient, but beside the huge energy mass also doing the same. They grew individually into sentient electricity. I call them energens, for a lack of a better name. They say that name is sufficient, but dimensional dudes just flows out of my mouth easier. When we can converse with them personally in the 3rd dimension, they can give us their own name. Conversation with people having energen spirit inside is often different from everything else in our creation. It's not hard for me. It is just really different, as they do not have feelings quite the same as us, and their thought patterns usually make it difficult for both of us to communicate easily. Dimensional dudes are learning how to relate and cope with us. They don't have feelings as we do, and when out of body, they have a powerful ability to understand most things, including feelings, almost as we do. And they act more like a hive community or collective. The members of the first group of energens, are in a large field of energy and are dedicated to helping the other smaller parts of themselves that they release into beings, much like we are. They are like a brother or sister to ourselves, but their spirit has no gender. They never separated into male and female. So, like the angels in our creation, they are both. Dimensional dudes they don't have the problem our creation has with negative frequencies. I can explain that at a later date. The important thing is that they are not negative beings. They exist, travel, explore, and search to understand all that they see. They are benevolent and not a problem. We will become much closer in the future. I watched a few dimensional dudes help a friend of mine with her condo's electrical problems that were given to her by the original first being female, who is gone now. The dimensional dudes kept her condo from catching fire for almost a year until she could leave. And then it was gutted and repaired. Wouldn't it have been proper for the condo management to have repaired it while she was living there? Here again are your reptilian economic concepts at work. Greed and arrogance are self-serving and disgusting. There is a whole lot more to say about these new friends of ours right now. You now have enough information to understand them in regard to your own or our own creation. Summary. Let's take a quick glimpse of what we just talked about. We're covering many thousands of centuries as we know them, just waiting for the universe to form enough to hold physical life within it. We're covering a lot of ground here, with only a few words. This book is a mere summary of events and the beings initially created to start the process of having lives, or what we call life. In the beginning, or at least as far back as we can go, there was nothingness and the first dimension. Then a unique event occurred through mere happenstance, which formed the first being to ever exist, and something else. It then started to create new beings from itself, as well as third physical dimension made from expanded physical heavy particulate matter. That's the boom that scientists talk about in the creation of our universe. As time went on, many different beings were created and started having lives to evolve and grow stronger and more diversified. Then, as things progressed, problems began in paradise, so to speak. Issues began to surface and changes were made. With all the information available in this first book of the creation series, you can become aware of the base foundation of what exists and start to answer some of your own questions regarding who you are, what is real, and where you came from. Remember to relax, flow down into your mind and body so that you can fly out of it, so to speak, as the spirit you actually are, and see things for yourself. This is not easy at first, but much like walking, it becomes easier as after you fall a couple of times. As always, my love goes out to all the plants, animals, fae, planets, stars, and of course all the humans. As you read this, please remember that the spirit within me is made from all these categories and more. When I seem to fire up from time to time, it's because the spirit within me, Era, the protector, Era was put in me at birth. It's mostly what I am. The source contains all frequencies. That where everything comes from. This being the case, his spirit simply completely bonded with me at birth. Due to the Era's power level, I have more of a singular Kundalini or core spirit within me, not the normal functioning dual core like everything else. This is a little more confusing to explain, but it's like adding water to soup. I was the water, but now I'm part of the soup. I'm absorbed into all of the body and planetary essence. As the creation series continues to be written, so will my awareness increase, as it should. As this book is written, I'm still dealing with problematic spirit on the other side. The fewer there are, the easier it is for me to calm down, relax, and see more. Everything grows, so do I, so does you. Where are we going from here? We must become aware of who we are, what we are, where we came from, as well as where we need to go in order to prepare for our new lives and move forward as a community. This needs to happen before the new first beings come out of the first dimension. These new first beings will not have not finished becoming themselves yet, so there's not much to say about them yet. We're setting a new format, not only for ourselves, but also for the new first beings, the new creations. They will be as children opening their eyes for the first time. We're about to become guardians for a short time for these new beings. Our family is about to grow, folks. Your next lives will be different, and the ones after that even more so. The first of the more significant changes should start happening around 2020. The whole life format is close to being changed. The final takeover from abusive control on the other side will begin before the end of 2015. Then things will slowly start to happen here. A few things will be abrupt, but most won't. In a few years, you will finally have loving mother and father source spirits to help you on your way, give you guidance, and protect you from the abuse instead of giving it to you.